welcome to Our Life. I am super excited today to be back in the studio for the first time since we were last here, I think February, since the pandemic that we have been in. So I am super excited to be back today, and what way to come back to discuss mental health, to close out Mental Health Awareness Month. So before I introduce to you my first awesome guest, let me give you a removing the mask fact about mental health. You've heard schizophrenic, bipolar. Some of those terms will cause you to pull away from your family, to hear voices. So on today, on the Our Life show, we're going to try to see if we could peel back some more masks on mental health and get a much clearer understanding on how we can combat this disease. We'll be right back with my awesome guests. All right, guys, we're back now with my first guest, Miss Lakeisha Woodard with Sisters Truth. I want to say thank you so much for braving COVID-19.
It's okay.
It's a rough. We have a rough right now.
Rough. You gave me an excuse to look nice today.
Yeah,
put on some real clothes.
I'm ready to take this makeup off. And yeah, this is the first time me having it on. But thank you, really, for coming out, because I know a lot of people want to get out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are still kind of fearful of getting out. And when I tell some people for other shows I have planned, they're like, we're doing Zoom? No, we're not doing Zoom. We in the studio. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. So thank you so much for that.
Welcome.
So let's start with, can you tell me why is it so hard for people to accept change and live their truth?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, change is scary for a lot of people. And in order to embrace change, you have to also embrace the unknown. And we all know that operating the unknown is like super uncomfortable. And I also think that people don't accept change because with change, it means to operate in your purpose. That's what it means to live in your truth. And purpose is something that sets you apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
Purpose makes you look a little funny to some people. Purpose may even cause people to pass judgment against you. And when you have suffered some form of trauma, no matter what that is, all you want to do is just feel accepted and validated, you know? So when we want that earning, we have that yearning for validation, we tend to reject who we are. We reject living in our truth, right? And we tend to fall in line with what's normal. We fall in line with what other people want us to do. And we find ourselves living a perception-driven life as opposed to a purpose-driven life.
I love that. Tell us about Living Her Truth, your podcast, and Sisters Truth.
Yeah. So A Sister's Truth is my purpose in action, actually. A Sister's Truth is a consulting firm that I built that specializes in self-awareness. And we also provide life coaching services to women. And one of our core values is transparency, because I'm really open and honest about sharing my story of how I transitioned from victim to survivor of sexual abuse. And because, you know, I love a good come-up story, if you will. I love to hear how people have overcome the odds. And I also recognize that everybody has an experience of sexual assault. I started my podcast, the Living Her Truth podcast. And it's a platform where I'm able to have honest, transparent conversations with special guests to just talk about how to use self-awareness as a tool to live a purpose-driven life, right? This is an opportunity to have others share their stories of overcoming traumas. Because even though you may not have experienced a sexual assault, you experience some form of trauma
through your life.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. Let's dig into this mental health. Why do you think in 2020 mental health is still a topic people really will not talk about?
Let me start off by saying that I think we're getting better. I think we're getting better with, you know, entertaining the conversation because, you know, we're here talking about it. So it's getting better. We're better than what it was in the past. I think that we tend to not talk about mental health, especially in the African American community, because we're talking about mental illness, it comes with a label.
Yeah.
And as a Black woman living in this world, I'm already have so many labels that have been attached to me just based off the color of my skin. So why would I talk about mental illness that's just going to attach an additional label on me and just make it a little harder? So we tend to not talk about it, right? And then also, I think that it's kind of hard to talk about something you don't really understand or have a lot of knowledge on or access to. And you couple that with the label that comes with, you know, having a mental illness, we tend to fall back and not talk about it and not speak up and not seek the help that we actually need.
Okay. Tell us about a little bit about your journey and how do you deal with it? And how long it took you?
Man, Monique, my journey is not unique. You know, I'm a first generation college graduate who grew up in the projects to a teenage mom living on welfare. I grew up in Chicago Heights, Illinois, so just growing up in that environment, I've seen a lot and experienced a lot. And I also experienced sexual abuse for 8 years by my mother's husband. So just being in that environment, I was counted out by society. Society labeled me as a statistic.
Yeah.
And I was doomed to repeat those same cycles. But, you know, fortunately for me, I was able to beat the odds, you know. And for me, I had someone early on my journey offer to pay for therapy sessions. So I was blessed by that. And so my journey started with therapy to heal from the sexual abuse. So I can even be here speaking to you today about it. And it was my therapy sessions that started my self-awareness journey that ultimately helped me to embrace my purpose and get to a point where I can talk openly about how I survived sexual abuse.
How did you deal with the mental side, your mental health, when you were dealing with the sexual abuse?
Oh my goodness.
Because how old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't. I was 8 years old. And it ended when I was 16. And I say it ended when I was 16 because, you know, my stepfather was arrested.
Okay.
So for 8 years. And honestly, Monique, I just was in survival mode, you know, and I was just like tune out. I didn't know how to like deal with it at the time. So I acted out, you know, in a way, not to the point where I was just being bad in school, but I just acted out in a way where I didn't smile as a kid at all. I always had this frown on my face because I didn't want him to think that I was happy. Because to me, if he thought I was happy, then that meant that I was okay with the abuse.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, you know? So it was just really me just being in survival mode and, you know, just doing whatever I could to just really survive the moment and just really just to tune out.
How did you deal with the depression?
Oh my goodness, therapy. Honestly, therapy really saved my life, you know, because I was suicidal at one point. You know, everything came crashing down, really, is when I went to college because I moved away from family. I was in a new town, brand new, and I literally, when I went off to college, I literally tried to forget that the sexual abuse ever happened.
And
you know?
block it out.
And block it out. I'm on my way. This is an opportunity for me to have a different life. And it was like I hit a wall just immediately because I needed to deal with the trauma. So therapy was right on time.
What tools, I know you talked a lot about therapy, what tools can we use to start to combat against mental illness? Because a lot of African American people, for one, do not want to go to therapy.
Right.
Can
I just emphasize therapy? Therapy is so important, and there's different resources where you can actually, you know, have therapy virtually at affordable rates. You know, I will also say to look into your health insurance because health insurance covers therapy. I'm able to see a therapist twice a month because my health insurance covers it. You can also talk to your doctor. You know, let your doctor know what's going on so he and she can help you provide you with the resources that you need. But also the one tool that we have, that we all have, that's really, really powerful is our voice. We have
that
to
we
speak up.
don't want to use.
That we don't want to use.
Or we only use it at certain times.
Or at the wrong times, right?
Yeah.
But we have to use our voice to speak up and to be our best advocate for ourselves and ask for the help that we need.
Okay. So how do you view life today since COVID-19? Which it seems like, I think everybody think we're not in, that COVID went away, but it hasn't. It's still here. It's just now, unfortunately, we're dealing with some other stuff. So how do you view life today since
COVID?
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I really don't view it too much differently. You know, I'm all about purpose, right? And operating my purpose. And since I was operating purpose before COVID, I'm still operating purpose.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, the pandemic didn't make my purpose go away. It didn't make it obsolete, right? It's still relevant, right? So I just make sure that I'm always operating in alignment with purpose. Now, the pandemic has, you know, caused me to view how I build and maintain relationships differently.
Yeah.
You know, it has caused me to really reevaluate my definition of happiness and joy. You know, what does fulfillment truly look like and mean to me, right? Because how I operate in this world is a little different. But how I view it, because I'm all about purpose, and not just purpose as it relates to my business, but every area of my life, my view hasn't really changed. It's just how I operate in this world has changed a little bit.
Yeah. And I think everybody's way of how they operate needed to change.
I agree.
But I think, unfortunately, some people that has not changed, and they're still ignoring mental health as well. So I want to say thank you for being here with me. I do believe that you will be back with my next guest, which is Miss Stephanie from the Healing Firm. And I think you will be back with Miss Stephanie a little later on in the show. So guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Miss Stephanie from the Healing Firm. Let me see if I can grab her out the green room, because she said she was cold. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back, and I'm here with my friend Miss Stephanie from the Healing Firm. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you. Like I told Miss Lakeisha, thank you for being brave, and coming out.
I know, right?
During this COVID season that we're still in. So thank you very much for that.
Okay.
So I want to talk to you about some things. What are some tips? Let's start off with that. What are some tips we can use trying not to stress out?
About COVID or life
Just
in
period.
general? I mean, you know, stress is one of those things that just happens. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's subconscious. But I think what we have to do when we're stressed out is recognize it. I think when we push it to the back burner, when we say, oh, well, you know, it's okay, it's whatever, and we start to minimize, then we don't acknowledge it. And anything we don't acknowledge will ultimately persist and keep trying to come in. So if we just acknowledge the fact, you know what, I'm stressed out, this is bothering me, I'm annoyed by this, I'm frustrated, go ahead and name it, and then allow it to show you what it needs to show you, be it a lesson or something that you need to go and heal. Then I think that'll help you not stress out.
How do we combat not being overwhelmed? Because it's easy to get overwhelmed. I think my mentality now is just, if it's something that I can't do or fix, I'm not going to say how I say it at home, but I just, whatever, and go on. How do we combat not being overwhelmed? Because I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with so many things, and then they just black out or something.
True. I think ultimately we get overwhelmed because we are trying to control everything, and that means the things that we can't control. And I think when we are, again, acknowledging the fact that we are overwhelmed, what's the source of this? Why is this happening to me? And deciding, you know, what part of this can I control? Can I control this? Can I control this? Can I control this? Can I control this? Then do your part, because that's the only part you can do.
Tell us about the Healing Firm.
Well, what would you like to know?
Everything.
Well, as I tell everybody, I'm obsessed with healing. I do believe we can live a whole and abundant life right here on earth and not have to wait to some ethereal afterlife, And to that end, we do coaching. And really what we're developed is a program I call Live Life Whole. And so we do coaching for individuals, and we go through a process with them, and then also working with small businesses, groups, and teams. So I'm very excited about that. That's something that kind of emerged during COVID.
And
so
definitely working with teens.
Yeah, teams.
Oh, teams. I thought you meant teens.
We'll get to them too.
Yeah,
we will get to them too.
Because they need something. I don't know what, but how important is it to have a strong family support system? If you don't have the family support system, just a strong support system.
Oh, it's very important. And sometimes it may not be your family. I'm the first person to tell you that I have an extended family that is far more supportive than my biological extended family. Now, my immediate family, that's great. But I think having people that support you, especially when you're leveling up and you're moving forward, is so key. Because if you're only supported by people that want to pull you back, that want you to stay in the place that you're in, then it'll be tempting.
Yeah.
So being surrounded by people that not just support you, but support where you're going is definitely key to the journey.
Do you think COVID-19 was good for everybody to start to face their demons, come clean with themselves, and make some changes? I was hoping people would do that, but once we reopened, seemed like a lot of people is going back to the normal.
Just reverting back, yeah.
Yeah.
I think COVID did give us the opportunity if you wanted to take it. If you wanted to take that opportunity, understanding what you're afraid of, if you were fearful, what are you actually afraid of, and what does that require of you? If you took the opportunity, then I think it was there. I think that people did, myself included, took the opportunity. Let's turn inward. Let's see what this is really pulling up. Because for me, if you're triggered by something, that's an opportunity. We trace triggers to the truth. And so being able to get to the truth of the matter, what am I really afraid of? Why is this really bothering me? Why am I annoyed? Why am I trying to be in control of things that I'm not in control of? I think it presented a really great opportunity for those that wanted to seize it.
Why is it hard for people to accept change?
Because we like to be in control. So.
Or is it just being content and complacent where we are?
Well, comfort, I think, is something that our human experience definitely likes. So when we get comfortable, even when we're sitting down, you called me and I was backstage and I had pillows and I was ready and I was like, what does she want? So in that brief moment, I got really comfortable and you were like, Stephanie, come here. And I'm like,
I interrupted that.
But why though? And so, but I came, but again, you're shifting me out of my comfort zone. And I work very hard to be comfortable. And so change is like, and because because when we get comfortable, we also get familiar.
Yeah.
And change puts before us the opportunity to see.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Change puts before us the opportunity to walk into and to experience the unfamiliar. And so it can be the scariest thing, it can be the most amazing thing, it could be the craziest thing, but if we love comfort, if we worship at the church of comfort, it's going to be very hard for us to change.
What do you think is the best way to combat mental health? Because Lakeisha says she think it's gotten a little bit better. Because people talk about it a little bit more. What do you think?
Definitely, I agree with that. We have to not just talk about it. Talk about, that's the beginning, right? Having those conversations, but then also not be embarrassed to take action. Not be embarrassed to have a prescription, not be embarrassed to go to a therapist, not be embarrassed to hire a coach or whatever. Not be embarrassed to take the action, because some people will say, oh, well, I'm this. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. Listen, I'll be transparent with you. I actually suffer from PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
You too?
Yes.
Ooh, I be wanting to kill somebody.
Listen.
For real. When I say, I mean really just remove
I'm
you
here
from
for
the
you.
face
I'm
of the earth.
completely here for you. And in the beginning, I took a homeopathic remedy. As I got older, eventually, I had to get a low dose of Zoloft. I'm not ashamed of that. I've since stopped taking it. I've found a way to level it off again. but I'm not ashamed of the script.
You need to tell me your secret.
Okay, I will. After, girl, after.
Yes.
We're going to heal some things.
Yeah, because that is horrible.
It is.
That is.
It is absolutely horrible, and we could just sit back and say, I have PMDD, and that's why I want to take your head off right now. Or we can say, I have PMDD, I need to get some help. Then when help comes, accept the help. Don't look at it as a slight of your humanity, or oh my God, I'm so flawed, I have to go see this therapist, I have to fill this script. Fill the damn can we say that?
Well, you done said it.
Well, okay. Edit that out. Feel the script. Don't feel some type of way about the script. Feel the script. Go get that. Don't be ashamed to take the action.
Because that there, and I think when I bring you and Lakeisha back, we'll dip into some more mental health things, mental health illnesses and diagnosis and stuff like that. But that there can, to me, will ruin, you can ruin friendships that you've had for a long time, because I will, it's not a good thing. So how do you view life today since coronavirus?
Honestly, this is the life I've always
That we still
wanted.
in.
I stay home. I still get paid. I sit on Zoom way too much.
Yeah,
but
you
I mean,
do.
this is the life I've always wanted, y'all. I think that, this is actually the life I've always wanted. I don't have a problem being at home. It's fine with me. I don't have a problem doing that. I do think that this has been an opportunity to innovate, to look at how we do things, why we do things. Like, it's been a pause. I think one of my colleagues called it the Great Reset. And I think if we allow it to be that, if we can take in that energy, it wasn't something that just came in and just slighted everything and just threw everything out. It came in to give us an opportunity to reset.
Yeah. And we're not resetting.
Some of us are not resetting. Some of us are not. Some of us are resetting to get back to. And I'm like, we can't go backwards. We can only go forward.
Yeah. So we're going to take another quick break, and when I come back, I will have both of these lovely ladies sitting with me on the couch, and we're going to talk a little bit more definitely about mental health, because that's what the show is on today. And we have to add the coronavirus into that, because mental health, if you didn't have a mental, or didn't think you had a mental health issue before the virus, you might have one now. So we're going to talk more about that, and maybe they're able to share some tips of ways of not being embarrassed or dealing with it, talking to somebody. So we'll be right back. And we're back, guys. We're in the last segment, so we're going to dig a little deeper into mental health. So I'm here now with Stephanie and Lakeisha. So again, thank you for braving to come out of your homes with no mask or gloves.
You got the mask right here. She did have gloves.
Yeah, she did have gloves.
Yeah.
You did have gloves on. To
She was
come
cute,
in
though.
here and sit and talk with me on a topic that most people do not like to talk about. So I want to, I know I've already asked you guys how we view life, so we're not going to, how did you view life before? How each of you viewed life before COVID? Because I've asked you how you view it now, but how did you view it before COVID?
For me, life was very busy. Go. In hindsight, in fact, I thought about it this morning. I was like, I do not want to go back to that. I really don't want to go back to the busy. And usually, I definitely prioritize taking time for myself. But I was just so engrossed and enveloped into so many things pre-COVID that, I was so busy. I had a lot of obligations, and they had to be met, and they were obligations that I curated. So it wasn't like somebody put them up on me. I did it. But I don't want to go back to that. Like I really don't want to go back to that. And I feel like this is the opportunity for us to shift. Anything we want to shift right now, I think we can shift.
Yeah.
It's like we can use COVID as our Trojan horse.
Yeah, I agree. Like Stephanie, busy.
Yeah.
And the busyness caused me to compare myself a lot, to other business owners, And so just being in COVID really just helped me to slow down and really get clear on what I wanted to do next. Because as a person who has achieved every goal that I've set out for myself, it's like, what's next? Because even with purpose, your purpose evolves. So I found myself before COVID, rushing into seasons that I wasn't even prepared for. So COVID helped me to like take a moment to step back, learn what I needed to learn currently, understand why are you even comparing yourself to everybody?
Yeah.
Right? So I couldn't move forward. And, for me, I think you said it earlier in your segment, COVID was a way to kind of like pause.
Yeah.
So because the whole world paused, it was like, okay, cool. So now I don't feel like people are like passing me by because we all are on this same pause at the same time, if that makes sense.
Because I was extremely busy and had a whole schedule all the way up into the summer. And when that happened, well, you ain't got nothing else to do no more. So you get to stay at home. You don't have that stuff. So it did make a change. When it comes to mental health, you have bipolar, schizophrenic, just, I hate to say regular depression, but, just regular depression that people deal with. When it came to this virus, do you guys think parents should be transparent with their kids when it came to the virus? Because I don't think we give kids enough credit because they're actually really, really smart. And kids go through some mental health issues as well, and parents may not pick that up all at one time. But do you think it makes it a little easier if the parents be able to explain in kid language about the virus and be more transparent with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, kids are smart. We take them for granted, and we don't really understand or really acknowledge or recognize that they're going through this too. Like kids have their own little world that they live in, and so just talking to them and seeing how they are interpreting what's going on in the world is like super important, and talking to them from that aspect. But again, I don't have children, but I can just imagine how difficult it is to talk to your child about something that you don't even quite understand. Right? If you're not even taking care of your own, mental health, how are you able to, take care of your child's mental health? So one of the ways to help your children, I truly believe, one of the ways to help your children to understand their mental health and work on their mental health is by them seeing you work on yours. You probably want to protect your kid from some things, but also let them in on some things as well. Because no matter how much you try to protect your child, we have this thing called the internet. Just in case y'all don't know about that. My kids have iPhones, they have iPads, they have access to the same information
that we do.
Exactly. So why allow them to learn things from the world? Like they should be able to learn it from you, and then whatever they experience out in the world, they should be able to come to you to get like clarification and explanation.
So what do you guys think is the best way for someone not to let a world crisis overwhelm them?
Go ahead.
I
mean, I think you have to see it for what it is, and realize that your words matter. If you're calling it a crisis, if you're calling it, with the apocalypse. I mean, just whatever term you want to ascribe to it, words matter. And they set the tone and the energy for how we perceive things. And so and early on, this happened to me. Early on, I had a very close friend that was always talking about how, I don't know, for those of you who do the Avengers, Thanos has his ring. And I'm like, okay, I couldn't take that in. I decided very early on that I wanted to be alert and aware, but not afraid. And so every time we talk about Thanos and the world coming to an end, that's energy. I don't want to be oblivious, true, but I just didn't want to take that in. and because words matter. And so if you're around people who are always talking about the apocalypse and the end, and food and water is going, and then you have no choice but to begin to cultivate a little bit of fear
Yeah.
inside of you.
Yeah, for sure.
I 100% agree. And if I could just
Go ahead.
add on to
Go
that.
ahead.
Another thing too is we have to accept the time that we're in as well, so we can
That's right.
deal with it and not be overwhelmed with it. And one of the ways to do that is to take a mental sabbatical. I did that like 2 weeks into the pandemic, when we were supposed to be social distancing. I even distanced myself a little bit more just by taking a mental sabbatical, so I can just really just get clear and realign with who I am, what it is that I'm doing, what am I working on. So how is this really going to affect, what it is that I'm doing? So just really just taking that mental sabbatical and literally taking a mental break so you can, reset, so you can deal with what's going on without feeling overwhelmed.
And do it without guilt.
Can you say that again for the people in the background?
Say that one more time.
Do it without guilt. Do it without guilt. If you need to deactivate your Facebook, if you need to turn your phone off and only answer calls from 12 to 1, whatever boundary you need to set it without guilt, shame, or blame.
Absolutely. My cousin was joking with me because when I was in college, I had on my voicemail that I don't accept phone calls between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. because that was my time to study.
Understood.
And everybody respected that boundaries because I enforced it. So when you called me, I didn't pick up the phone.
But
So
I
we
think
have to
that's one
enforce it.
thing. It's like with most people, we feel bad when we tell someone no, we can't do something. And then I know sometimes I feel like I have to give you an explanation. I don't owe you an explanation. I really don't. So I'm trying to get to that phase to say I don't owe you an explanation.
Yeah.
No is a full sentence.
But we do that, and then I think sometimes because we're trying to carry on whatever lifestyle we have and all that, that triggers a depression, or in this situation with the virus, you have people that always had jobs losing their jobs.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now we're in the process of having people not have a place to live
Yeah.
because they're evicting people. So that's life changes that
Yes.
can easily, you don't always have to have, and I think we talked about that before, you don't have to always have be diagnosed as bipolar or schizophrenic
That's right.
to have a mental illness. You can go through a life change and have a mental illness.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
end up getting a mental illness. I know this was a big thing during the virus because we had to separate, we had to social distance, we couldn't go to, we only could go to the grocery store or wherever. So what do you guys think on how people are paying attention to their families now? Do you think people, since we're back out, do you think people are really spending more time with their families now, or because you wasn't before? I'm just going. Some of y'all would. Some of you guys were not spending time with your families before, let's keep it real.
Yeah, yeah. I think for those people who are eager to get back to how life was, probably not, right? Because if they wasn't doing it before and they're trying to get back to that, then they're probably not doing it now, which is really sad because, I think you mentioned it in your segment that, the pandemic was a way to reset, right?
Yeah.
So during this pandemic, we changed in some way and
Yes.
prayerfully changed for the better. So why
Yes.
not hold on to that and then move forward, because with social distancing, because I talked to my godmother one day for like 3 hours, on the phone. Which
That's
is
like
something-
catching up.
Yeah, exactly, which is something that we didn't do before, because, before it was like a 20-minute, 15-minute conversation.
Right,
Yeah, let me text,
right.
Here and there. But moving forward, I enjoy that so much. Why would I want to go back to only just texting her or having a 15-minute conversation? Why not move forward with that?
And see, Stephanie, how important is it also to definitely keep in touch with your close friends and loved ones to watch their behavior? Because in all reality, we can talk to someone on a daily basis, but they're only going to tell you what they want you to know. They will not tell you sometimes everything and whatever they're going through. So how important it is, because, you know, depression can easily slip in.
Definitely. I mean, the intuitive, empathic side of me is always reading people, especially those that are close to me. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but, you know, so I do my Vulcan mind meld and figure out what's really going on, like what's happening here. But yeah, we have to be alert, and to a certain degree, we always take, if you care about somebody, you do take responsibility for them.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. Not to the point of being codependent,
Right.
but to the point of being aware, okay, something's shifting here. What's going on? There's somebody in my life that I care about dearly, and I see patterns of behavior. And I'll say, hey, what's happening here? Because the pattern's back. I see it. Or like the old folks say, the pattern. The pattern is back. The pattern is back. And so they're like, really? And I'm like, okay, because I will forever be grateful to the person who, after my father passed away, and that was 10 years ago, but they noticed changes in my behavior, marked changes in my behavior that I thought were like, meh. And then one day they were like, hey, I need to talk to you about this, this, and this. And they brought it to my attention. I'll forever be grateful for that. And so I pay it forward by paying attention to those that I care about.
You know, that's a really great point. You know, pay attention to the small things, because like I mentioned before, I'm really open with, like, you know, sharing my personal experiences, right? And so I did a YouTube video just talking about, you know, how, you know, your strong friends, you need to check in on them. And I just talked about, you know, my experience of being the strong one that everybody comes to, but nobody really wants to, like, hear, you know, what's going on with me, or the fact that I feel like, you know, maybe let me not say what's really going on with me, because I'm the strong one. Everybody comes to me for strength. And so my best friend, she saw the video, and so she picked up the phone and was like, hey, how are you doing today? And I'm just like, oh, I'm doing all right. Well, no, but really, how are you doing?
Right.
And I was like, well, since you asked, you know.
Right.
And I didn't realize that it was because she had watched that video.
Yeah.
And she listened, and so she picked up the phone. So just small cues like that.
I'm normally the one that calls people. They won't call me unless they don't. Yeah, they
I'm
won't
gonna start
call
checking
me.
on you damn on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll
Strong
call
Girls
me.
Club starts here.
Yeah.
Strong
Well,
Girl Club.
because I called you a couple times just to say, hey,
hey, girl.
and what you're doing, and but I'm normally the one to do that. They won't call me. I don't know. People think, I guess I'm supposed to call, so whatever. But
Or they think they see your strength and they think that you're okay. Oh, Monique
Yes.
gonna handle it. She's all right.
She's fine.
yeah, and
She's
most of my
fine.
friends know if I am going through something, I'll have whatever little pity party. I'll figure out a solution, and I move on. I move on. So we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back with a couple more questions to close out the show. So guys, we're gonna be right back. We're back now in this last segment, and something that I did not say, and I want to say it now. In the event that you are depressed, you are hearing voices, should I say. You're in a state where you're thinking about suicide. Please reach out to a medical professional. Don't sit around and think it's going to go away. Reach out to a medical professional. If you have to walk into a hospital to get help, do so. Do not ignore it. Tell somebody that you can trust and confide in. Tell somebody, if it's not a medical professional, it's a friend, someone that's not going to judge you or throw it back in your face. Definitely seek medical attention. And I can say this to you because I have a mother that lived in a mental institution for 6 years of my life. I myself suffer with depression, and I've tried suicide. So definitely reach out to somebody. Don't just sit there thinking it's going to go away or thinking you can solve it on your own. And when you're hearing voices, you cannot solve that on your own. So I want to definitely get that out, because I didn't say that earlier. Don't be embarrassed. Most definitely. So what would you guys say to the world on how they should look at life today? Especially since we're back out in the world, and things that we've been seeing in the news. The clubs are back open. Everybody is out having a good time.
I mean, I think you still have to set your intentions, though, and not be dissuaded by the fact that people are out, whether they have on masks or not, or if they're 6 feet apart, and you can get caught up in that minutia, easily. But I mean, set your own intention for how you want your days to go, what you're willing to do, what's acceptable for you, because you can't control anybody else.
Exactly.
And make that commitment to where to operate from the energy you want to operate from.
I would say, don't forget that we're in a pandemic. Okay,
Girl, they forgot. That's all.
We are in a pandemic. Oh my God.
Let's not forget. Let's not
forgot
forget
that.
that. I've been hearing a lot. People say they don't want to live in fear.
Right.
It's okay. I don't either. But I also have to be mindful of what's going on.
Yeah.
So do whatever makes you feel comfortable. If that's putting on a mask and gloves and continuing to quarantine yourself, then do that. For those of you who are like, I'm not going to live in fear, I'm just going to go ahead and live my life, don't bash the people who are doing what makes them comfortable.
Yeah.
Just, let them do what they do, and you continue to do what you do.
Because everybody's dealing the way that they
Absolutely.
need to deal. And I think when we start to vilify each other, I think one of the things that was really concerning in the beginning was, I don't see you as a human now. I see you as a potential threat to my health. So I'm going to hold my breath in the grocery store. I saw people that would say this.
And you hold your breath, you're going to pass out. You're going to be deceased before the virus.
Let's not talk about holding your breath and wearing a mask. That's just complete foolery. But we have to see each other as humans again, right? And respect the fact, like you were saying, Lakeisha, just respect the fact that this person is dealing the way that they need to deal, and maybe they can't put on a mask. Maybe they are claustrophobic and they feel horrible. So let the humanity come back into the narrative.
Okay. Give me, because I think you do have people that are bipolar that have not been diagnosed, so
Absolutely.
they really don't know what's going on. You have people that's schizophrenic.
Yes.
But the people that are just depressed from time to time and can't seem to get out that funk, the people that get stressed out easily, what are some tips you guys can give me where to help them try to pull themselves out of that funk of being depressed? And then if you can't pull yourself out the funk, then I guess at that point you need to go somewhere.
True.
Yeah.
And then the people that easily get stressed and do not know how to deal with the stress. People that get stressed by just watching the news.
Yeah. Which is a real thing. I had a coaching session yesterday, and I was just asking my clients, how are you doing with everything that's just transpired really this week? And, one of the clients said, well, honestly, I haven't really been watching the news because I have anxiety and I don't want to feel overwhelmed. And so what I told her to do is take a mental sabbatical, take a mental break. It's okay to pause. Like if you need to pause and disconnect, it's okay to do that. I think sometimes we vilify ourselves for needing a break, but it's completely okay. Take a break, remove yourself, from the situation and just stay away. And then also I would say too is to do more of what you love. If you love to knit for 2 hours every day. If that's what brings you happiness and joy. Of course that takes self-awareness, but just do more of what it is that you love, what is it that you enjoy, so you can bring the joy and happiness into your space.
Absolutely. And I think on top of that, what we have to remember with acute bouts of depression is that definitely it could be tied to dietary intake. So as much as it is mental, it can also be what you're eating. Certain things can bring so your hormone levels in. You know, you might be responding to lacks deficiencies in your diet overall when you're eating chocolates or salty foods or whatever. So being mindful of what you're taking in. If you feel absolutely horrible after you eat something, we're not going to say what it is, but if it's after you eat something, you know, be mindful of that. See if it's a pattern of behavior. If you start to feel sad or unmotivated, or just look at what you might be eating prior to what happens. Not because we're trying to say, you know, oh, you make horrible food choices. However, there just might be some foods that your body doesn't like and it responds in that way.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because you know I like to share personal experiences.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So
Go, girl, go.
no, so after when my brother was killed, you know, I gave myself time to really just like embrace my new normal without my brother. But the grieving period lasted longer than what I expected, and so I felt myself starting to get depressed. I'm like, am I going through a depression? Because my normal routine of things, like meditating and praying and study the word, just wasn't helping. And that's okay. If you already have a routine in place and it's not working anymore, then it's time to reevaluate what's going on.
Exactly.
And because I had digestive issues for several years prior to that, you know, I ran across a vegan herbal detox.
Okay.
And I did a detox, and it was like I just like this mental clarity, like the fog was lifted. So there's something to what it is that you're saying. So I mean, I still went through the grieving process, and I'm still going through the grieving process, you know, but I no longer felt as though that I was falling into a depression, because that mental fog was lifted.
And to give some little tips dealing with someone that has mental health issues, for a family member or a friend, if they see these tips, pulling away from people and activities, eating or sleeping too much, too little, feeling numb or nothing matters, feeling helpless or hopelessness, smoking, drinking, using drugs more than, well, you shouldn't be using drugs at all, but if you more than normal, and when you're hearing voices and thoughts of harming yourself, you definitely need to step somewhere and get some help. I know for me, I started pulling away from everybody and separating, you know, myself and staying more to myself as well. So tell me, this is going to be the last thing, tell me, what are some, a word from each of you of encouragement do you all have for someone that's starting to suffer with depression during this time, or just period? Because in our reality, with this virus, we now have to learn how to live with it.
Yes.
Whatever normal that will be. So give me some type of word of encouragement for someone starting to deal with depression in the time that we're in now, or just period.
Well, I would just like to say, if Monique just described you, please know that you're not alone. Like, we're all living in this pandemic with you. We all are battling, you know, a form of depression in one way or another. So don't feel alone. Don't feel like you're the only one that's going through this. You know, ask for help. Speak up, because we're all are asking for help in some way, form, or fashion.
And don't feel, I don't mean to cut you off, but no one should feel like they're a botheration. I don't know if that's even a word.
It is now.
It is now. Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you are annoying or you're bothering somebody. Because I think with me, when I did the interview with you, that's what I said. You know, I know I loved myself. That wasn't the issue. I felt that I just didn't want to be here anymore, because it would be easier and people didn't have to be bothered with me. No one would miss me. So don't ever feel that way.
Because you would be highly, highly missed.
I was gonna say that.
I mean, think about it. You know, grandma has cancer, and you don't find out until she's on her deathbed. How do you react? Well, grandma, why you didn't tell me? You know, because I would have done more. People want to know. So if you're in that situation, just communicate it. Tell someone that that loves you and care for you, and get the help that you need.
So tell someone what you got for me.
What do I have for you? You know, it's such a loaded question, because if one of the things I took a mental health first aid certification, I think about a year ago, and one of the things that it talked about was being willing to ask somebody if they want to kill themselves. Just straight up asking them, not trying to sugarcoat it. Do you want to end your life? Are you feeling like you don't want to be here? No, ask them, do you want to kill yourself? Like, being very forward about it. And I think in all things, even if you're not ready to ask that question, because you may not be ready for the answer, I think we ought to get into I don't want to say should, so we can, it's to our advantage to get into the habit of asking and not assuming. And not assuming that she'll be okay.
Yeah.
Well, I talked to Kelly the other day. I'm just throwing out a random name, and she didn't sound good, but she'll be okay. Maybe Kelly won't be okay. Maybe you, and I'm not saying that if Kelly does something to herself that you're responsible. I'm saying that we have to take some genuine, sincere interest into the well-being of our fellow humans. Like, that's a must. So if you're witnessing it, ask. If you're experiencing it, ask for help.
But we also have to keep in mind with that as well. Some people hide it.
Absolutely.
They will, because my nephew hid it.
Yeah.
He hid it. I mean, the question everybody asked his parents was, how was he last night? Was he okay? How was it? Yeah, he was laughing, joking, whatever. And the next day, he was gone because he committed suicide. And that was January 2020. So that, I would say also, if you having issues, don't hide it. I think don't hide it.
Yeah.
Just don't be embarrassed, like we talked about earlier in your segment. So,
and every issue matters. I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got a few clients that are like, well, I almost like, one of them was a Marine, and he's like, I'm not entitled to have PTSD. I didn't go to Afghanistan. Or somebody else is like,
you can have PTSD and you don't have to be in the military.
Exactly. So, he's like, oh, I don't have the right. Some people feel like they don't have the right to have a diagnosis because, their traumatic childhood, they weren't raped or molested or beaten. And I'm like, but if you were neglected, if trust was broken, there are so many experiences you can have as a child that shape you from the human development side.
Yeah.
So every issue matters. It doesn't have to be some big, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you. It could just simply be, it has been a habit that somebody has broken promises for you that's triggering, and you're feeling some type of way. That matters. So again, if you're seeing it, ask the person, ask them what they're feeling, and even if they lie, that's fine, you've done your part. But if you're experiencing this and you have an issue, be it this big or whatever, know that it matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And most people don't see it as a trauma either. If it's not
That's
something,
right.
like you said, big as like molestation or sexual assault, they don't look at it as trauma, which is another reason why I started the Living Her Truth podcast, so other people can come on and share their traumas. Because I don't care if your dog died when you was 3 years
That's
old.
right.
That's a traumatic
That's
event
traumatic
for
experience.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's traumatic, and it's worthy for you to
and
get healing
something
from.
you're going to remember.
Absolutely.
So I want to definitely thank you ladies for braving.
And we're not even 6 feet apart. Did you notice? Like, we're close.
Don't start nothing.
Okay,
in
my
here.
bad. Okay.
Don't start. Again. Thank you both for coming out, sitting down, talking to me about what we've been going through with COVID, as well as mental health. We'll put some tips up also so people can pay attention to those signs for someone that's experiencing mental health. So again, thank you guys. And until next time, always empower, always encourage, and continue to remove your mask.